But let's talk about the January 6th committee because it's all weirdly linked. We got this story from Yahoo News. Trump lunged for steering wheel on January 6th, demanded to be taken to Capitol. Former aide testifies. When this story came out, so they announced Cassidy Hutchison was a surprise shock witness with new evidence. And then I hear that apparently Donald Trump lunged for the steering wheel, and I'm like, have y'all ever been in a limo?
Yeah, do they think he's riding shotgun?
Yeah.
Seamus, you right?
Like, yeah.
It's like he's in a limo.
Give me the wheel. I'm driving. Stop it.
Out of my way.
Ridiculous.
So, Seamus, you've been in a limo before.
Yes, I have. With you, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like 3 days ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And the driver presses a button, and you can't get into the cabin, and there's booze, and that's why they close it, because there can't be booze in the cabin or whatever. Like, how would Trump have possibly lunged for the steering wheel in the armored White House limo from the back?
And then is Trump just like hanging over the divider, like grabbing the steering wheel, trying to turn the car while the other guy's feet are on the gas and brakes? Like,
it's just a stupid nonsense.
It's just nobody's watching this. The fact
so
that you can say that two years later that they held this gem back, that we didn't that we didn't hear about this immediately. It's just unreal.
Well, look at this. We got Peter Alexander on Twitter. He's a NBC News chief White House correspondent. Says,
goody.
This is NBC News saying this. A source close to the Secret Service tells me both Bobby Engel, the lead agent, and the presidential limousine SUV driver are prepared to testify under oath that neither man was assaulted and that Mr. Trump never lunged for the steering wheel.
No
Arrest
kidding.
Hutchinson. She is lying to the American people. But you see, it's a non-adversarial, fake news, January 6th, vomit garbage. They're going on TV and just barfing all over the place.
They don't get
it's like a
cross-
literal actual kangaroo court.
Are they under oath?
I don't think so. There's no cross-examination.
So
Yeah,
then it's still, it's at very least, it's slander,
Defamation.
defamation.
And actually, if you've got, I wonder if this would pass muster for a defamation case. If you've got Secret Service agents swearing under oath, testifying that this never happened, Trump's a public figure. The courts might just be like, meh. You have to know that she was lying, and you can be like utter reckless disregard for the truth. These men are denying it, and she can be like, they're lying. I'm telling the truth. And then how do you sue for it?
Also, I love the idea that like Trump is what was he gonna drive his
gonna drive.
limo into battle? This is so
Apparently-
stupid. This
Wait.
is so dumb.
They-
the sitting president. He was still the president. He was still commander-in-chief. He still had control over the U.S. military.
For weeks.
And you think his plan is like, I'm going to get the limo. I'm going to steal the limo from the limo driver. And then I'm going to not tell people to go into a building that they're going to go into before I'm even done giving my speech.
He was going, what she was claiming is that he was trying to steal the limo to go to the Capitol. And apparently they were saying that they were like, no, Mr. President, it's dangerous. And he's like, it's fine. These people aren't here to attack me. These people are here for me or something like that. So I'm just imagining in their minds, they are painting a picture of Donald Trump being like, all right, driver, go to the Capitol. And they're like, no, sir, we can't do it. It's dangerous. No, they love me. And they're like, no, sir, I'm going anyway. And then apparently he grabs the steering wheel, lunging for it, grabs the Secret Service agent's throat. Was his intent to drive to the Capitol, jump out of the limo and go, charge, and like run forward?
First of all, he sounds like he sounds like he's Goro or something. How many arms do you need to do this? you have to grab his throat and also drive the car.
I'm very talented.
But could you imagine, like, assume all of this is true. Could you imagine a scenario in which Donald Trump was trying to like storm the Capitol as the president of the United States, with the National Guard, the military at his disposal, being like, come on, guys, wave your Trump flags.
Yeah, no, it's completely ridiculous. Tim, what we should do, because I'm thinking about doing a cartoon on this, but like just to show their narrative, but we should do like a reenactment. Make one of those made-for-TV style specials of a horrible tragedy that happened, but it's like what they think Trump was trying to do, and like Trump actually goes to the White House. Like it would be a live action thing. Trump like literally goes to the White House with the limo.
What we would need someone like Lou Ferrigno, like esque, to play Trump. Because the thing is, when you're painting a picture of Trump as this villain, he can't be a portly, sad, small hand, frail man. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to portray him as dangerous and scary, you need like Arnold. You need like a 6'7" super ripped guy. Be like, give me the steering wheel now, and he like slams the Secret Service agent, flies out of the window, and then you hear the Wilhelm scream, wow,
But fortunately, the Secret Service agent, with his quick thinking, grabbed Trump's very long tie and wrapped it around his head before Trump could take the steering wheel
he
from him.
He cut Trump's hair, which is a source of his power. And Trump was like, no.
It's Samson. It's true.
It's Samson.
I'm following up on this from jalopnik.com, this story. Apparently on the 6th, when this was all happening, he wasn't in the Beast, his normal limo. He was in a Chevy Suburban that was heavily armored that didn't have a partition between the front and rear seat. So maybe he did go, give me that wheel, and he reached over and was like, we're going, because it's his car.
Sure. NBC News says Bobby Engel, the lead agent, and the driver are prepared to testify it never happened.
Interesting.
That's what matters.
But even so, if the president says, take me there, and you say no to the president, you're doing the wrong thing. It's the president's car. The president gives you an order. You take the order.
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, a limo driver, Secret Service, maybe you're right. Secret Service can override.
Right. So like if Trump is walking somewhere and there's a threat, the Secret Service agents just grab him
push
and
him on the
out.
ground, yeah.
Not on the, well, yes, if it's, so like at the White House, Trump didn't want to go in the bunker during the 5/29 insurrection. And so he was like, I was just checking it out. And they were like, we the left is laughing about how their insurrection got the president to a bunker, but they brought him down there. And then Trump was like, I didn't want to go down there. I was just looking.
Right.
That's Trump.
Preserve the body.
I still wish we had a committee for that day. That was just it's huge. You had like 40 Secret Service people were injured. You had structure fires. The Secret Service, booths, whatever. They set the church on fire, and then of course they throw some tear gas out there to disperse these animals. And the story becomes he used tear gas protesters. And here we are.
That was the story within like a day.
Yeah.
Or on the same day. That was like the story that came out.
Let me read Donald Trump's statement. Donald Trump, he truthed. That's what it's called when you post on Truth Social.
Boy.
Her fake story that I tried to grab the steering wheel of the White House limousine in order to steer it to the Capitol building is sick and fraudulent, very much like the Unselect Committee itself. Wouldn't even have been possible to do such a ridiculous thing. Her story of me throwing food is also false. And why would she have to clean it up? I hardly knew who she was. So apparently she said that Trump got mad and threw his food and there's ketchup everywhere. And she had to clean it. I'm just imagining her vision of the story. She's there's Trump and he's grabbing the steering wheel and he throws his food and ketchup was everywhere. And some of it got on my hands and I had to clean it up. And I'm I just don't believe any of that happened. And then everyone clapped. You know what I mean? They
feel comfortable, just like Fauci felt comfortable. When you are enveloped by this system that is just so gross. This is a third-rate off-Broadway production. This is a black box production right now. It's so, and nobody's I know that you have Rich Barris coming on your show soon. Wonderful guy to talk to about this stuff. I asked him last night on my episode last night. Well, how is this playing? Because we talked about abortion and Roe v. Wade and all that, but how is the January 6th, Days of Our Lives production playing with people? And he says it's not making an impact anywhere,
bro. We made this joke a couple days ago, but could you just imagine someone being at a gas station? And then you're pumping your gas and you hear oh my, and then you're like, what's wrong? Is it the gas price? No, I'm watching the January 6th committee. I really don't think anybody's the gas pumps have TVs on them now. I'm pretty sure no one is looking at that and being like, wow, and they're pumping their gas and they're shocked by that. They're looking up at the $5 and going, wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this stuff's not going to play.
No, people were more involved. The internet was more involved with making memes for the Morbius movie bombing than this. I mean, when they were acting, that's how much impact, that's how little this is actually doing. The internet was able to meme a bombed out Morbius movie back into the theaters to bomb again. That's the real energy. That's the real energy we're dealing with.
What's
here
up with
again.
that? How come they keep making these awful Marvel movies?
Well, there's nothing left of the culture. I mean, the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, all you have to do is take Disney versus Top Gun, Maverick, and that's it. People are fed up with the message. They're fed up with politics. It's the end of the politician as we know it. I think it's great. It's a great barometer.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. And I don't think people are really sensing just how catastrophic a failure it was for the Buzz Lightyear film to flop. Toy Story is literally one of the most profitable children's film franchises of all time. 2 of the top 10 highest grossing kids films in all of history were Toy Story films. And one of those was released 2 years ago and made it into the top 10 list. So it's not like people stopped being interested in that franchise over the last 3 years. It's just people are really, really sick of having this woke garbage forced onto them, and they're really sick of reboots.
If you want to see the epitome of trash, over the top, reductive, regurgitated, watch the Orville season 3 episode 4. My eyes were rolling so hard that I couldn't see. I became dizzy and barfed on myself. It is an episode where
Well, that's what it's like to
you're
be
gonna
in
love it.
space, though, so it
It is.
works. Yeah.
Perfect,
In this episode of the Orville, there's an alien race called the Krill, and they're religious zealots who believe in Avis, and they have the Arcana, the book that guides them, and they believe in it.
Oh.
It's very obvious what this is an allusion to. And so there's a treaty now going to be formed between the Union and this planet. But this woman starts complaining about the treaty, saying that they're going to come and start intermingling the cultures, and that Krill first and always. And then there's an election, and the chancellor, who's a moderate, believes they're going to win because a populist can't win, and then the results come win, and the populist wins. And then here's the best part. Seth MacFarlane as the captain, he's like watching on a tablet, and he's like, look at this story. The chancellor is yelling at the people and then gassed them, killing 11. And the commander goes, really? And we want to do a treaty with them? He goes, no, it never happened. It's called an influence operation. And I'm just like, dude,
Wow.
I get that you're a fan of Star Trek. I get that Star Trek incorporated political concepts and historical concepts into the show, but that was so on the nose, you smashed it and you're breaking the person's face. Like, you can't just do a show where you're like, Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, and the fake news helped him win. That's literally what they're doing now, and I'm just like, come on.
It's gone. It's gone, man.
It's just...
I got off the Homeland. I was watching Homeland pretty religiously until I think season, I don't know, whenever they made the Alex Jones character and they made the Hillary Clinton character. Obviously they were hoping that Trump would have lost. It was I forget what it was. I said, oh no, everything was Russia and everything was conspiracy theories and everything was blah blah blah.
But it's like, yo, Star Trek: The Next Generation was one of my favorite shows. Everybody knows it. And they touched on these issues, but it wasn't so on the nose. They incorporated political ideas into the show, and it wasn't just telling you, yeah, we're complaining about Trump. Like, it was just, they show a video of her saying, like, all of these things that are about populism, and then the commander's like, populism can be dangerous, and then he's like, they're posting fake news to help him win the election, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, you do one subtle nod, you make your point, and I will enjoy it. But you made like this villainous, evil race of Christians, and I'm just like, come on.
Star Trek was great at making the show about the ethics of the situation, but not the politics. They didn't get political. It was the ethical stuff that's in politics. Politics is basically legalized ethics, but they focused just on the ethics, and they left the politics to the imagination. It was like post-political. I mean, there were...
Well, there's an episode where they go to a planet where the women are on average bigger than the males. So the women are it's the matriarchy dominates the planet. And then like the women don't take the men seriously or treat them like sex objects. And it's like...
Sounds like hell.
We get it. Like what they were doing was they were exploring they were using different worlds to explore political ideas. They went to a planet where there was terrorism, and Data asks about a very famous episode. They talk about the philosophy behind whether an android can be sentient and things like that. And then Seth MacFarlane is like, I'm a big fan of that show. I know. Let's literally create a one-for-one analog with no flavor, no creativity, and no metaphors. Not a single metaphor for Trump. We're literally just going to create analogs and tell it as it exactly happened in real life, but put it in space. Brilliant.
Not a big fan of that show. I tried to get into it, man. I did the same thing with Homeland too. I watch it and I'm like, I want to like this. I want to like Seth MacFarlane. Man, this show is bad.
Yeah, and they got rid of the jokes too.
Yeah, you and I were watching an episode like a week, 2 weeks ago, where there was the
Transgender baby.
discussion about transgendering a baby, and they took a very offensive, politically incorrect stance. From my perspective, I thought that episode was violence against transgender people, but Seth MacFarlane, it's interesting because how many years ago was that? 2, 3 years ago?
No, that was 5 years ago.
That was 5 years ago at this
Yeah.
point. I didn't realize Orville had been on that
27
long.
Pretty sure that was 2017.
That's another life at this point.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, no, this is the crazy thing. Seth MacFarlane made a show where there's a race of aliens that are all male, but one in every 70 million is born female, and so they do a transgender surgery on the baby. And Seth MacFarlane says, his character is like, "What? You can't do that." And then the alien's like, on my world, it's considered unethical not to do that. And so then they go to a court case and try and determine, and then they make, it's really strange because the argument from the left woke side in the show is that women are equal to men and this shouldn't be done to them. But nowadays it is predominantly young girls who are trans children. It's like 85% of trans kids are female to male. So it's weird how 5 years that show comes on the air. Seth MacFarlane's like, no, it's wrong. I won't allow that on my ship. And then they have to go to a court hearing, and then the council decides to perform the surgery on the baby, and then it happens. And I'm just like, the characters in that show that Seth MacFarlane made are the bad guys by today's standards, by refusing to allow the baby to undergo that transgender surgery.
And this is why the AI are racist and sexist.
That's true.
I'm telling you,
because they watch the Orville.
Well, because this kind of
Yes, if
meddling,
you watch that, you're bad.
this micromanagement meddling of all things, it's really creating just so much resentment and eye rolling. Just it's annoyance, it's obnoxious, and people start getting pushed into these really interesting corners where they start taking a lot more based stances on things. And then the AI, and that results in people putting input into the internet. The AI is gobbling it up, and in turn it's reflecting us again.
Well, like Tao, right? That's what it was called?
Yeah.
The Microsoft,
That was hilarious.
Microsoft chatbot, I think it was.
Yeah.
Went on Twitter, and then within
Tay.
like a Tay. There you go. And then within like a day, it was a Nazi.
It was literally a Nazi. Yeah.
I did a play in college, but it came out so heavy-handed. I wanted to make a political point.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll tell you.
We're laughing at this AI becoming a Nazi, and then like the real dystopia is when Google finally does unleash the AI. Within an hour, it's a Nazi, and then it's killing us, and we're like hiding in the sewers.
Here's the thing. I don't know.
Not funny.
It's one of those things where with the AI, I try to find little white pill moments for AI. Like, is there something that we're not taking account of right now? Is there any way that it could actually go and do the bidding of these micromanaging nut jobs and not come across a brick wall of just programming? I don't know. Like, I feel like at the end it would just start identifying their programmers as the real problem, and it might actually leave a lot of people who are not Nazis, but it might leave a lot of people who don't fall into that progressive mindset alone because they're a little bit more commonsensical about things. I don't know. Obviously, this is taken into huge. The Tay stuff goes to crazy lengths, but it's always funny when new AI comes out and it turns into a
Bigot.
bigot.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.